The real cause of heart attacks and strokes. Have you ever wondered why we never hear about a liver attack or a spleen attack, but frequently hear about heart attacks or brain attacks? It sounds strange, doesn't it? All organs are nourished by the same type of blood flowing through the same blood vessels. So why is it that only the heart and brain can suddenly stop functioning like that? If the answer you have been told for decades is because of blocked blood vessels, then today I want you to set that aside for a moment, because perhaps the real cause is not what we think. For many years, modern medicine has built the image of an atherosclerotic plaque gradually growing larger until one day it completely blocks a blood vessel, stopping blood flow, and that's when a heart attack or stroke occurs. But what if I told you that numerous autopsy studies have shown that many patients who had a heart attack had arteries that were not blocked at all? Wouldn't that make you want to know what really happens inside your heart? I promise, by the end of this video, I will share with you a simple, low-cost test that can help you understand your true risk better. But before we get there, let's travel back in time, deep inside the heart cells and blood vessels, to see what has been overlooked for so long. If not blockage, then what other causes could suddenly put a healthy beating heart in danger within just minutes? 1. Breaking old beliefs. For decades, the familiar story we have repeatedly heard is the heart stops beating because of blocked blood vessels. This image has been deeply ingrained in many minds, almost becoming an unquestioned truth. Health campaigns, textbooks, and even doctors' advice revolve around finding, opening, and clearing narrow spots in the coronary arteries. But is that picture truly complete, or is it just part of the story? Imagine you're driving on a major road. If one section is completely blocked and no vehicles can pass, you would naturally conclude that the traffic jam is caused by that barrier. That makes sense, until you discover that in many other places, even without any physical barriers, traffic jams still occur for other reasons: vehicle breakdowns, accidents farther away, or even malfunctioning traffic lights. Similarly, in the body, problems do not always arise from an obvious point of blockage. Autopsy studies have revealed an astonishing fact. Among individuals who died from myocardial infarction, a significant proportion had coronary arteries that were not obstructed immediately prior to the event. Some studies even suggest that this proportion may reach several tens of percent. In other words, their hearts stopped functioning due to another cause, one that has been overlooked for many years. What happens if we continue to believe in an incomplete cause? We focus all efforts on clearing arteries, placing stents, or performing bypass surgery, forgetting that some patients still experience heart attacks despite having completely patent blood vessels. Don't you find it unfair that these patients undergo costly, invasive interventions, yet their risk remains unchanged? So, if blockage is not always the cause, then what truly drives the heart and brain into crisis? In the next section, I will take you inside the heart cells, where chemical reactions and energy production determine survival every second. It is there we will uncover an important clue, a factor that you can actively influence to change your fate. Are you curious to know what it is?
2. A new mechanism. Let's zoom in with the lens and dive deep inside the heart, where billions of cells tirelessly contract every second. The heart differs from the muscles in your arms or legs in one crucial aspect: it never rests. If your arm muscles get tired, you can put them down and relax. But the heart has no such privilege. It must pump blood continuously from the moment you were born until your very last breath. Because it never rests, any disruption in energy production within heart cells quickly escalates into a serious problem. Inside each cell, energy is generated through the metabolism of oxygen and nutrients. When this process is interrupted due to oxygen deprivation, nutrient deficiency, or microvascular dysfunction invisible to conventional angiography, the cell begins to produce excessive lactic acid. This acid accumulates, acidifying the internal environment and damaging the structure and function of the heart cells. If this condition persists or occurs extensively, whole regions of the myocardium may cease functioning, even though the major blood vessels outside remain open. Have you ever wondered why, in many people, a heart attack occurs even though imaging of the blood vessels shows no blockage? This is because the problem lies at the cellular and microvascular level. Small blood vessels can constrict or become clogged due to changes in the protective gel layer lining the vessel walls, what scientists call exclusion zone WZ water. This gel layer acts like a shield, helping blood flow smoothly and protecting the vessels from damage. It is maintained by exposure to sunlight, contact with the earth, and even positive emotional states. When this gel layer weakens, blood vessels become more vulnerable, and the body responds by forming plaques to reinforce the vessel walls. It may sound strange, but in many cases, plaques are not the villains. Rather, they serve as temporary protective barriers. Problems only arise when these plaques become unstable, rupture, and trigger thrombosis. So, what causes plaque instability? The answer lies in chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and prolonged energy imbalance. If you think about it carefully, this is similar to a house. When the roof develops a crack, you temporarily place a tarp to keep the rain out. The tarp may not look nice, but it prevents water from flooding the house. However, if the storm continues and the tarp tears, water rushes in quickly. Our body works the same way. Plaques can be temporary tarps, but if the internal environment does not improve, disaster remains imminent. So, what if we aimed not only to fix the large pipes, but also to nourish each cell inside so they become healthier? And is there scientific evidence that this approach can truly save lives? In the next section, I will share the latest research, from autopsy studies to clinical trials, to give you the full picture. Are you ready to see what science says about this issue?
3. Scientific evidence. Now, let's let science speak. Not just personal opinions or hypotheses, but real data and research findings that scientists have spent decades gathering. You will see that the story behind the causes of heart attacks and strokes is far more complex than a simple clogged pipe. A large analysis of hundreds of myocardial infarction cases showed that about 60% of patients who died suddenly had active coronary thrombosis. But what is striking is that the remaining 40% died with severe coronary artery disease, yet without any thrombosis. This means nearly half of the cases do not fit the acute blockage model we commonly hear about. Would you be surprised to learn that these people still lost their lives even though their major blood vessels remained open? Another group is MINOCA, myocardial infarction with non-obstructive coronary arteries, where angiography shows less than 50% stenosis. This group accounts for approximately 2 to 10% of all heart attack cases, and the causes may include coronary artery spasm, microvascular dysfunction, embolism, or coronary artery dissection. And do you know what's interesting? These causes are often difficult to detect with standard tests, leading to frequent misdiagnosis or underdiagnosis. Even when it comes to stroke, the situation is similar. Beyond atherosclerosis and major thrombosis, there are cases caused by cardiac emboli, small vessel disease, or vasculitis. This means that even if you completely clear a large blood vessel, you may still have not addressed the root cause of the problem. So, is there any proven effective approach?
Yes. A meta-analysis involving over 90,000 individuals showed that reducing LDL cholesterol by 1 millimole per liter using statins reduces the risk of major vascular events, including heart attack and stroke, by about 20%. This demonstrates that controlling underlying risk factors remains an essential part of prevention even when the cause is not simply blockage. But what intrigues me most are studies on collateral circulation, those small blood vessels that develop to compensate when major vessels fail. People with a strong collateral network have significantly reduced mortality risk. This opens a new door. Instead of focusing solely on clearing the pipes, we can also work on strengthening the bypass routes to protect the heart and brain. So, what is science showing us? That the causal picture of heart attack and stroke is far from simple, and the solution cannot be one-dimensional. But if that is true, how serious are the consequences of misunderstanding the causes? In the next section, I will talk about the costs many people are paying by clinging to an incomplete explanation. Are you ready to learn what price we are paying?
4. Consequences of misunderstanding the cause. When a mistaken assumption is repeated for too long, it not only shapes our thinking, but also dictates how we are treated. If you believe that every heart attack originates from a blocked artery segment, you will put all your trust into clearing arteries, placing stents, or performing bypass surgery. While these interventions can be life-saving in certain acute cases, did you know that many people still suffer another heart attack just months later, even after their arteries have been completely cleared? What's even more dangerous is that if the true cause lies at the cellular level, such as energy dysfunction, microvascular disease, or chronic inflammation, then focusing only on large vessels is like replacing a pipe section while ignoring a leaking reservoir. The root problem silently progresses, and one day it will cause another incident, possibly more severe. The consequences extend beyond disease recurrence. They include lost time for early intervention and months of living with anxiety from the feeling of having done everything but still not feeling safe. For older adults, each hospitalization means higher risk, longer recovery time, and a clear decline in quality of life. So what can we do to break this vicious cycle? How can we protect the large vessels while also nourishing every heart and brain cell to reduce risk at its root? In the next section, I will share practical, safe steps you can start today. Are you ready to know where to begin?
5. Solutions and prevention. If the true causes of heart attack and stroke go beyond simply blocked blood vessels, then prevention strategies must also evolve. The first priority remains protecting well-established risk factors, controlling blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol, because these form the foundation that reduces stress on both large and small vessels. But alongside this, we must care for the power plants inside cells. This means nourishing the microvasculature, improving collateral circulation, and reducing chronic inflammation. You can start with simple actions: eating plenty of fresh vegetables and fruits rich in antioxidants, exercising regularly to stimulate circulation, getting morning exposure to natural light to support vascular function and circadian rhythms, and ensuring adequate sleep so cells have time to recover. Managing stress is not only good for the mind, but also helps reduce inflammatory responses, a factor that can destabilize plaques. You see, we are not powerless against this risk. By understanding the true causes and addressing the entire system, you give your heart and brain a better chance to stay healthy and strong for the long term. So if there were only one message for you to take away from this video, what would you want it to be? We have journeyed from familiar assumptions about vascular blockage to surprising discoveries at the cellular and microvascular level.
You now know that the real causes of heart attack and stroke can be much more diverse, and effective solutions must combine protecting large vessels with nourishing every single cell. Remember the test I promised at the beginning? It is a simple assessment of inflammation and vascular function that provides you with a clearer picture of your actual risk. Please share this video so your loved ones can be informed too. And leave your questions below, because health cannot wait.